Okay, welcome along to our first panel discussion in the Inspiration series, and we thought it was appropriate to start with the inspiring tales of those who just started house sitting this year. So it's kind of a bit of a, if Nat and I were in South America, I think we would actually cover 4 corners of the world at the moment. And it's amazing that we're actually all on the same day, because we've got Mandy, who's actually Nat's sister, in Tasmania, Australia. It's really late at night. It's just before midnight. Sophie's in France at the moment, and Lisa is in Florida. We're here in Costa Rica. So we've got all different time zones, 6 a.m. for us, through to the end of the day in Australia. So, yeah, welcome, guys. Thank you so much for coming along to share your experiences and your stories with us.
Thank you. Great to be here. Great to be here.
Thank you.
We've got the ladies panel.
We've got the ladies panel. Inspiration. Well, I'd just like to point out as well that, I mean, I don't know, we've spoken to a lot of people over the years that are into house sitting, and we've certainly had some conversations where people seem to have this preconceived conception or idea that house sitting really is best for retirees. But I just want to point out that none of us here are old enough yet to be retirees. So we might be covering a couple of decades here, but I feel that we're all very young.
Yes, so hopefully that's inspiring in itself.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is, as we just let everyone introduce himself, we'll sort of go around, but please feel free to jump in at any time, guys, if you've got something to share. So I guess starting at the top of the screen over on the left there, Mandy.
Yeah, so what's your experience with house sitting? You've only started this year, I know that. And how did you feel going into it? What was your mindset with going into it too? And what sort of success have you had?
Okay, so we started house sitting in June this year, my husband Andrew and I, and we, guess going into it, we felt fairly excited about it. I guess that we weren't quite sure what to do. We were just starting in Australia, so we were, very confident with, the area and the language and everything, obviously. So it wasn't as big a leap, obviously, as probably starting in a foreign country. So that we had that on our side. But we felt quite confident because we'd done quite a lot of research, and obviously we'd spoken to you guys, Nat and Jody, about the best way to set up a profile and all that. So we put a lot of effort into setting that up, and so that went down really well. We started getting approached really early on in the piece, actually. As soon as we put our profile up, we got contacted by, I think, 10 people in about 24 hours. So for house sitting. So we were kind of we had a destination in mind, Tasmania, so we had to turn quite a lot of them down, unfortunately. But we did land quite a few straight off the bat, which was really really good, actually, really good for our confidence, and made some really good contacts straight off. So we were really happy.
Cool. I definitely want to come back to the idea of having chosen Tasmania as well. But we'll just go on to Sophie now. So Sophie, you're house sitting in France at the moment. That's probably high on everyone's destination list, I would say.
Absolutely.
Definitely. It's not like I could travel to normally. We kind of, my husband and I took a year off work, and so we're on a sabbatical leave. We kind of fell into housekeeping, house sitting, sorry. There's some housekeeping involved. What happened is we were looking for a place to live for the year, to have an experience abroad. We went to Nicaragua, and there were some house sitters there, and thought, what a fantastic idea. How come we didn't think of this ourselves? And started looking into it, and that's when I fell upon the House Sitting Academy course, and did a little bit of research, and we thought, well, why not? What a great idea. We could actually live like a local, which is what we wanted to do, and we could travel our way to places we never thought would be possible. So we set up our profile. It did take quite a little bit of work to tweak it and to amend it. It took at least a month for us to start getting any kind of responses. I think we got lucky here in France because we responded to French speakers in their language. So we did target. We weren't having any success with English posts, so we started answering in French posts. And that's when we started lining everything up. And within a month, we had our first one booked. And here I am in San France. Next
Well,
Barcelona.
Next is
nice.
Barcelona. Very
Sweet.
nice.
Very
Well, I just want to
cool.
point out that you are actually French Canadian, so having the bilingual,
Yes, exactly.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
very, very cool indeed. So
Yeah.
coming around to more closer to our side of the world, Lisa, you're in Florida at the moment, but as you were saying, hail from New Hampshire, yeah?
Yes, we got started because we had a year of time where we had sold our house and our boat, which we live on a boat. Now we're going to be living on a boat full time. And we had a year's period of time where those had both sold, but our new boat wasn't ready yet. So we said, well, and it was all kind of an unplanned sort of turn of events. So we didn't quite know what to do with ourselves. So we said, well, we've heard about house sitting. We had no idea that there was this whole world of, house sitting platforms and all of that. And we just kind of wandered into it and decided that we would use it as a way for, to have lodging for that year and to travel around a little bit, but we didn't have any grand designs on travel. It was more that we would go to the Southeast US, places we could drive to, and also be near to our sons that are both in college in this part of the country. Mm-hmm. And also go someplace warm. That was the main thing. get out of New England. No more New England winters, which is why we like to live on our boat. So we, I'll say, I think one of the ways that we were able to get started in relatively short order, maybe within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, is that we were applying for house sits during Thanksgiving, during U.S. Thanksgiving time period. And I think there were so many people that were looking that we were able to find a house sit without having any experience. I mean, we had a couple of references just from people saying that we're upstanding citizens, but we didn't have any house sitting references, and certainly none in the system, from other house sits in the system, because we hadn't done any. So we did that first house sit, and it was a gorgeous home, and we had a wonderful time, and it just all rolled from there. It was just, we were able to match them up consecutively into the time period that we needed and cover all of our time. And they were all, like I said, located in the Southeast US. And then came the opportunity to house sit a private island in Tonga in the South Pacific.
Woo! That was a real nice one.
And all of a sudden it was this, huge travel opportunity.
Well, one of the reasons we actually did decide to host the house sitting summit over the US Thanksgiving weekend is because that is the time of year when most of the Christmas listings start coming up. And what we've found over the last few years with the growth and awareness of house sitting around the world is more and more people will start to sort of realize only even a few weeks short of Christmas that they would like to go away and they would like somebody to look after their home and their animals while they're away. So we have found that a lot of these Christmas house sits do actually go unfilled. So one of the reasons for bringing this awareness to everybody is, just like you said, Lisa, getting started over a peak period is pretty much the perfect way to get those first house sitting references, because there will be homeowners who will definitely need help, even if it's only as short as a few days through to being away for weeks or even months. And especially if you're willing to get outside of your comfort zone or look at something locally, then you've got, say like the snowbirds up in Canada or northeast USA that are going to want to head to the warmth, like you said. So there will always be house sits available, and it's a great way to get started.
Yeah, and the other two things I picked up from your speaking was how important it is to put time and effort into your profile, because you've got to think too from a homeowner's point of view, which is who we're appealing to, is that's the first view that they have of you. Yeah, your impression of you. So putting the time and effort into your profile is super, super important sort of thing. And writing it from a point of view, from the homeowner's point of view, what are they looking for? It's not about, I want to go traveling and I'd love to go and see near your place and we can't wait to get out and do some tourist things. You know, they might have pets and they've got their home to look after, and that's their most important thing. So it really is about talking into their values. And the other thing I got too was that you started with something really familiar. So Mandy, you were in Tassie, which is really familiar to you guys, of course. And so for you were in a place where you actually spoke the language. So that was going to be helpful as well in speaking French. So it was familiar for you, so you were more comfortable, but it was also more familiar for the homeowner as well. And that made them feel more comfortable, that it wasn't a foreign person coming in. And maybe not, you know, a lot of homeowners worry when you go to a foreign country, if you're not from their country, that how you're going to actually go, you know, particularly in tropical areas. You might have hurricanes, you might have things that are really unfamiliar, and they do get a little bit stressed about, we're just not sure how you're going to go here, because if you're not used to that sort of climate or environment, it's going to worry them.
Okay, so I'll bring that straight back to Lisa then. Is it because of your boating experience that made you appealing to the Tonga resort? Because it's like an eco resort, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We had the skills, first of all, boat handling skills, because that's how we traveled while we were there, as far as going to town to buy provisions and that sort of thing. And then also solar power, rainwater catchment, you know, all of the skills necessary to maintain that sort of environment we already had, because those are all the things you have when you live on a boat. So it was a perfect match, and it went really well.
Yeah, that's definitely what they look for. And Mandy, in Tassie, you've done a lot of the rural properties, so with farm animals. And actually, I have to let everyone know that the birth of twin lambs in Tasmania has now been called Mandy and Andy, after Amanda and Andrew,
To the house with us.
Congratulations.
You've got twins. Congratulations.
Go back to the actual matches too, as you're saying, but even just this, when we did start, we chose winter time in Tasmania, which can be quite brutal, and the house owners were quite sort of kept checking, going, you sure you want to come in winter? You sure it's okay? We were like, yeah, that's fine. Like we didn't mind cold weather. We knew what we were in for. And it was cold and it was windy and everything else, but it was what we were expecting, no worse than what we were expecting, and it was fine. So so in terms of that, we started at a peak time down here, because everyone's escaping to get to the warm weather, so that we had a huge amount of house sits to choose from down here. So but also, as I said, with rural house sits, we did have some property experience. So as much as we didn't have experience with horses, etc., but we did have some rural property experience, which was quite appealing to them, because we weren't fazed by a tree coming down in the wind and getting a chainsaw out, or fixing a fence or doing something like that. So, and looking after multiple dogs and things like that. So so it's been good in terms of that, matching up quite well.
Yeah, but you've given yourself a great shot too, because as you say, everybody's traveling north for the colder weather sort of thing. So
this is the flipping of the world.
I know. I've been thinking about which way they had to travel to get to the warmth. So, but it gave you the best shot, because not many people were applying for house sits down there, I'm sure, at that stage. So it's not a bad way to start, to actually start getting some references under your belt. And on that point, how did you go, Mandy, with getting some references? What did you start with? Because you hadn't had any house sitting experience. What did you?
So similar to Lisa, we just started with some character references from close friends, or we had a friend that we'd done a small amount of house sitting for, looking after their cat. So after our 2 dogs passed away last year, and that's when we decided to start house sitting, we were kind of free of animals again. So we looked after their cat a handful of times, and they ran a B&B. So she wrote us a really great reference, and I actually knew her too from our local Chamber of Commerce committee. So I had a reference from her from a sort of professional point of view, and also a personal friend point of view, and also looking after a cat point of view. So it was a really good reference from that one. And a few friends, we just got different references from that. we were renting a property at the time, so we got a reference from our landlord, who we got on with really well, and also the real estate agent. So they gave us really good write-ups of looking after property really well, because we maintained an acreage, so we had good references from that about how well we looked after a property. And then in terms of that, we just put a lot of effort into actually writing the profile itself. So I think that kind of went down with people too. We came with our background of, we'd owned a couple of houses, we'd renovated houses, we'd owned dogs. So we had rural property experience. So we really put all that in there. Andrew's a tradesman, so he has all that background of fixing things. And so that kind of appealed, I think, to the homeowners as well. So
Very cool.
yeah, it's been
And Sophie, were you actually house sitting in Nicaragua before you went over to France?
Partially, but only near the end. So once you met people there in the area, and we saw it was quite common. There's a large expat community.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
and then we met other people who were doing the same thing. So that gave us a little bit of connections over there. So near the end only, and but I guess this would be the first official booking from
So
overseas.
right now, this is the first official. This is very
wow.
cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Very exciting.
Many, by the sounds.
I mean, we had my husband and we had both taken care of our friends and families' homes and their plants and their cats while they were away. But we had no official, this is our first official.
Very cool. Well, maybe we need to check in about 6 months. I don't know about, I mean, Lisa, you're saying 1 year in between buying a new boat. Mandy, you're sort of kind of like however long. And Sophie, you said 1 year, but maybe we come back after you have a few more under your belt and you maybe just keep on going.
I don't know how we're going to go back to work after this.
No.
How can we get your work online and keep you out there?
Exactly. We're looking into that, actually.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's another thing to consider though as well is a lot of people are actually using house sitting to, save on their rent in their hometown in order to, save up for their own mortgage or whatever it may be. But what I'd like to talk about now, because Lisa, you've actually been, it's almost coming up on a anniversary year for you, like Thanksgiving is only 6 weeks away now. And Mandy, you're pretty much booked for, since the day you started, you had kind of 6 months booked out with just a few bits and pieces in between. And I know that both of you have actually done quite a bit of networking sort of outside of the platforms. So could you just touch on that? Lisa, in particular, you've mentioned to me a couple of times about putting it out to the boating communities if people want to get on land for a little while, maybe consider house sitting.
Yeah, that's something I'm really interested in because it's such a great combination, just like what we found with the island that we did the house sitting for. It seems like a natural fit, and I'm just starting to explore how to bring those two worlds together. There's so many similarities. The mindset of the community that lives on boats, they're called cruisers, is very similar to the house sitting mindset of enjoying experiencing places from the inside rather from the outside. You go and you stay for a while and you get to know people and you live in the environment versus just being a tourist, stopping by for a couple days. So it seems like a natural fit. I am just starting to explore how to bring those two worlds together. I'm just, an individual here wondering, how that might come together. And so I'm just starting to play around with it. I'd love to explore it further.
Well, I think particularly for those off-grid and eco type of places, so, with the experience that you have got now under your belt, and, even how we connected was through Ian Usher, who had his own off-the-grid island in the Bocas del Toro area of Panama. And, that is definitely, it's almost like you have the house sitting awareness that is fitting into the worldwide travel niche, but then it's breaking down from there again. So, you know, it's sort of like you guys are really quite fitting into that off the grid, you know, different sort of element. Mandy, you're fitting into kind of the rural and farming, like as in it's not always what you're going to do, and you probably have some city sits as well, but it's kind of like that's becoming a bit of your specialty. And Sophie, I mean, yeah, even with the dual languages, just being able to we want to have a chat with Marianne from Nomador, who is actually French, and there was a really great article that came out on her website recently talking about some of the cultural differences of say trust, you know. So a lot of the French will still sometimes kind of like be a bit pulling back on the whole having somebody in their home, but there's so many French house sits available, so it's a beautiful part of the world.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Well, so, and it's a house that you're doing in Barcelona as well?
As well, yes. I'm also sticking to what I know, so the languages are familiar for me, and I'm also choosing house sits that are, let's say, more convenient. So there's nothing too complex. There's no farm animals, since I don't have any experience working with farm animals, and I'm just seeing cats for now.
Yeah.
and,
well,
and
I think that's. Yeah, I think that's perfect, because if it is sort of the easier 1 or 2 pets, or, you know, not having to be tied to the place, you know, if you've only got 12 months of, you know, a sabbatical, you're actually still going to want to explore the areas that you're in. You don't want to be tied to the work, like Mandy's been working a lot of hours in some of these rural properties.
Yeah. And I guess that's the point with house sitting. It can be everything from what Mandy's experiencing with multiple pets of all just different descriptions, down to like just 1 or 2 cats perhaps, which does free you up a lot more to actually go sightseeing and stuff. So you really do have the choice when you're house sitting about what you take on as well, and how much freedom you want to have in actually staying in place too. Sophie, what are you looking after there, Sophie?
one beautiful cat, and she's very affectionate.
For getting out
And
and about as well.
obviously there's houseplants as well, and a beautiful heated pool.
Very nice.
Which is, yes, luckily my husband knows how to take care of the pool and to do the maintenance on that.
Well, that's it. It's something for us with when it comes to learning new skills. I mean, coming from Australia, Nat and I are both lucky that we did grow up having swimming pools. So we did have, that was part of our chores as a teenager, to get our our weekly pocket money, was do things like clean the pool.
I don't know if I got paid for it, but yeah.
Oh, I did. I'm lucky.
Mandy can confirm we didn't get paid for it.
So we've had those skill sets, but we've also gone into some properties where we were completely unaware of, say, irrigation systems and different things, and we've built our skill base because of, you know, being shown by the homeowner how to do these things, which is very, very cool.
Yeah, I guess it's just a willingness to take on new skills too. Have you found that, ladies, that you know, there might be things that you haven't done before, but if you're just willing to give it a try, and the homeowner's more than happy, here's our boy, more than happy to, he rang for your breakfast. The homeowners are always really willing to show you, you know, around the property and show you what needs to be done. If you don't know how to clean a swimming pool, they will show you. You've just got to be, you know, willing to have a go.
All right, so we'll wrap this up, but I'd love for everybody to actually share, if you can, one piece of advice to anybody getting started in what it is that they maybe haven't thought of with regards to either the creating a profile, or what it is that maybe you can expect while house sitting. Please, take it away. Who's got something straight away? Oh, look, he's definitely coming in.
What I would suggest, I actually helped my parents recently get started in house sitting. They did one local sit near them. They live in Texas. And then they jumped right in headlong and did a house sit in the UK for 2 weeks, and then straight on to Italy for 4 weeks.
Nice work.
So, nice. Yeah, I was impressed with their willingness to jump right in. But they had no experience, you know, other than their life experience. And what I suggested that they do was start with a local house sit, and that's what they did. That's how they got their experience. And we did 2 weeks. You know, it was just a couple of hours down the road from them. They could drive. They could even go back and forth to their house if they needed to tend to something. My dad was actually working a couple of days a week, so he was able to commute to work from there. And that was how they started. And that's definitely what I recommend, because I think not only does it get you the experience that you need to get those recommendations, but it also gives you a good taste of what you're getting yourself into, what you're willing to do, and what is just too much, you know, for you to comfortably take on.
I would say confidence is a part of that too. It's like having that confidence to go into, you know, a stranger's home, particularly in a new country. You know, if they've gone to the UK and Italy now, it's like just that confidence builds each time they do it. Sounds very similar to my parents, actually. They've been local house sitting around the area too. It's like having a little mini holiday for them. Where they were.
Yeah, where they were.
Mandy or Sophie, have you got a suggestion for somebody?
Yeah, I would say a little bit similar to this, but I was saying when writing the profile and even just thinking about house sitting in general when we started, we really thought about what we really love, like what we actually really enjoy doing. So we love bushwalking, scenery. I love photography. We love animals, and so we tried to put a bit of that into our profile as well, like a bit about we tried to sort of write it from that vein of we really love animals, and sort of writing it from that space so that it became really obvious that they were our number one priority. And yes, we wanted to travel and see things and do all that kind of stuff, but that came across more as being willing to try new things. We made it really really obvious that we were willing to travel. Like, we had our car, we were willing to drive to places that maybe some people wouldn't consider driving to because they were quite rural. We were willing to kind of take on that kind of stuff. And we just tried to be ourselves in the profile. So that's kind of really come across, like the responses we got from homeowners unprompted. Like, we weren't actually applying for them. They were approaching us saying, oh, we really loved your profile. And I think that just came across in the way we worded it. We were just ourselves. We spoke about what we were good at, but not from a boastful place, just saying this is what we love doing. And that's what I think landed with people. It was just almost like a resonance thing. It wasn't so much the wording. A few people just said, oh, I don't know what it is about your profile, but we just really loved it when we read it. We just really love you guys. There's something about your energy. So it's like it just came across through the actual
He's really going crazy for his breakfast.
Major cuddles going on here.
Yeah.
Welcome to house sitting.
Yeah. And Mandy,
so I think I would just say to people, just put yourself into your profile. Like, don't be afraid to just sort of be yourself and say what you are good at and what you love doing. And that's kind of what was landing with people. So that's what we found.
And sorry, I just wanted to say, just before you start there, Sophie, Mandy, you've got a video on your profile as well?
Yes, we did. We going by the advice from you guys, actually, with the advice we had in the House Sitting Academy, was about putting a video on, and that's actually been brought up by a few people that it was good to have a face to the words. Like, just, it was only like a little short half a minute thing. It wasn't just saying, hey, thanks for Amanda and Andrew, check out our profile, thanks for watching that thing. It wasn't anything big. Andrew was very nervous about doing the whole video thing, but it came across fine. A few people have actually commented that was quite useful for them to see, just to get a feel for who you were, type thing, just in a short space of time.
So Lisa, have you got a video?
We don't have a video, but when we first got started, we filled in every photo slot possible. And which was a recommendation I had read. And the other thing we did is, we don't have any pets of our own currently, but we posted any pictures we had where we are, dog lovers. So we happen to have pictures of us with other people's animals. So that was the pictures we posted.
And so
I would definitely second that too, about having pictures, if you got them, of actually interacting with animals, because that's been picked up too by homeowners saying, oh, we saw the one where you were feeding the goats, and we saw the one where you were doing this, and it's really obvious that you're actually interacting with the animals. So but to start off with, we only had pictures of us with our dog and our friend's cat that we looked after, and we just started with those. So now we've updated it now with more recent pictures of farm sits we've done. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You can keep adding to it. So, Sophie, have you got a video on your profile?
No, but I'm glad to know that that's been useful because we've been toying with the idea. And now I think we'll probably make a little short video as well, just to have more of a visual. I don't have much to add, but I would reiterate, Amanda was saying regarding the honesty about be true yourself. I think it's really important because sometimes you can get really excited. You see some exciting invitations or some really fancy house, and you might you just have to remember to be true to what you're looking for and what would be a good fit for you as well. And not to misrepresent. I know there's a part that you have to sell yourself, but always try to remain genuine. Obviously, don't try to make stuff fit into a square and be just because you want to be in a certain location to represent anything. I think ways and always be honest with what you're looking for and what you can offer.
Yeah, there's a term that is used in the sales and marketing world called 𝗣𝗲𝗍, which basically means what's in it for me. So when you write your profile from that standpoint of what's in it for the homeowner, they're the readers, they're the consumer of it. So it's kind of like, what do you bring to the table? Then it doesn't feel like you're selling yourself. You're actually just saying, here's how I can be of service. So it's more of a being of service type of mindset as opposed to thinking, I want to boast or say that I've done this or I've done that. And, it must look really impressive to say like, oh, I live on a boat and I travel the world and I've run an eco resort in Tonga. It's kind of like, it actually is just more, here's what I do for you. Because I have got these skill sets, I can bring all this to the table.
And a good way to ask that is, if you were a homeowner, what would you be expecting to read in a profile? What would you love to read? And that helps you write that profile as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for almost 4 corners of the world. And I think we're actually going to still close it out on this day. So, Mandy, you will be able to get to bed before midnight. Ladies, it's been awesome, and we make sure we all connect in because we're all Academy members. So we've also got the inner circle where we can all hang out now that you've got some faces and voices to the names. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing your words of advice and your experiences with us.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks. This was great.
Very cool.
Fantastic. Thanks, ladies.
Bye-bye. Oh, and Zulu says goodbye to everybody too.
Breakfast now.